माइक दे देना, माइक दे। Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today our lesson is about government intervention. Yesterday we started our chapter number 3, in which we were talking about why it is required to intervene in the economic activities by the government. Why government is intervening in the economic activities? There are mainly two reasons. I said that there is economic inefficiency by the market forces of demand and supply, and on the other hand we can also face equity problems. There is unequal distribution of income in the society, so government is having the objective to achieve these two objectives of economic efficiency and equity. This is the main reason why government is intervening. Now yesterday we started our lesson about regulation, and we had covered price regulation as well, the price ceiling and price flooring. Now today we are talking about the second tool, that is called the direct provision of goods and services. I gave you some instructions that market forces are unable to produce public goods. They are not allocating, the private producers are not allocating resources in the production of public goods, or merit goods are underprovided because consumers are not having enough information about the benefits of merit goods until unless they are informed by the third party or society or elders or paternalism, we can say. So public goods are not produced by the private producers. That's why there is economic inefficiency in the allocation of resources, and at the same time merit goods are underprovided. They are having under allocation of resources in the production of merit goods. Now the government is becoming the producer of these goods and services. Like government will supply us the public goods, and you remember what is meant by the public goods. Public goods are basically those goods which are collectively consumed or used by the people. They are having two characteristics, that they are non-excludable and they are non-rivalry. Non-excludability will mean that we cannot exclude anyone from the use of the public goods. They are present for everyone. And non-rivalry means what? If we are using these goods, their supply is still available to other users. They are not diminishing in supply if we are using them. If one person is using them, still they are available for next users. Okay. So public goods are also having a problem of free rider. What is free rider problem? That means the free rider problem means what?
आवाज नहीं जा रही, एक सेकंड।
मेरा तो रिकॉर्ड हो गया। Okay, there is a little bit pause. Nevertheless.
लेकिन कोई उनको समझ आ रही है कि स्क्रीन के साथ कितना कुछ लग रहा है।
आप सर पूछें, आप नजर आ रहा है?
Are you having the right view right now? Students, is their view clear or not? Okay. Okay, we were talking about the public goods. They are non-excludable and non-rivalry. Now, I said they are having a problem of free rider. What is the free rider problem? If one person is using the product, he is trying to use it without any payment. Everyone wants to enjoy the benefits of these public goods, but nobody is willing to pay. So because of their non-excludability and non-rivalry problems, the producers, the private producers, they are not allocating resources in the production of public goods. And on the other hand, we also studied about the merit goods. Merit goods are those in which consumers, they are not having realization about the benefits of these merit goods. They are under consuming it until unless they are informed by the third party or society members. So these goods, they are having economic efficiency. In the case of free market economic system, public goods are not provided. Even merit goods are provided, but they are under provided, or there is under allocation of resources in the production of merit goods. Now we are going to say how government will intervene. Now government will become the producer of public and merit goods. Public and merit goods. So wherever market is inefficient, it is not allocating resources in the production of public goods or merit goods, they are underprovided. Government will increase its supply by allocating resources in the production of public and merit goods. So it will improve economic efficiency in the economy when these public goods and merit goods are supplied by the government. So in our yesterday's tool we said government was regulating the market, and today we said the government is becoming the producer of these public and merit goods. So when government is becoming the producer, it is going to create employment opportunities in the country as well. So it is not only becoming the producer, but more employment opportunities will also be created, and government will try to improve the economic efficiency by using more allocation of resources in the production of public and merit goods. So definitely when government is becoming the producer of these goods, the efficiency conditions will also be improving. More resource allocation will be there by the government in order to produce these types of goods. So the market system was failed to produce public and merit goods efficiently. So by the government intervention, we are able to improve the economic efficiency by providing these public and merit goods. Now come towards the third tool of government intervention. Today we are now going to have the third tool of government intervention. Please stop talking, students, you will be disturbed, otherwise lesson will be interrupted. So you have to keep quiet, silent in order to have the best voice communication to you people. So right now we are going to have the third tool, that is about income transfers. Income transfers. So why government is intervening in the society to have more income transfers? We know that free market economic system, it is also causing income inequalities. There is going to be gap between rich and poor. Rich people will become richer and richer, and poor people will have less and less level of income earned. So some of the vulnerable groups of the society, they are not having enough income to fulfill their basic needs of living. So what is going to happen? Government will collect taxes from the rich people and provide benefits to those who are actually deserving. So government is now transferring income from rich people towards the poor people. These payments are called, these are called transfer payments. What are they called? Transfer payments. By the economists, we say, in economics we say these are the transfer payments. Why do we say these are the transfer payments? This is a transfer of fund from employed people towards those who are actually deserving. No corresponding output has been produced against these transfer payments. So these will include what? Pension to the old age people, or we say unemployment benefit provided to unemployed people. Okay. At the same time, you can say the child care benefits or research benefits to the provided to the researchers. So these are the benefits which are transferred from one sector of an economy to other sectors of the economy, from employed to unemployed, from employed to old age people, or to those who are having children to be nourished. So government is providing child care benefit as well to those families. Okay, why government is providing these types of benefits? The reasons behind that is that these people should not be trapped into poverty. Poverty means the number of people in a country who are unable to fulfill the basic needs of life. Like basic needs are what? Basic food, shelter and clothing. So government will transfer these payments in order to keep the people out of this poverty trap. They should not be trapped into poverty if these payments are paid by the government to these people. Like pensioners, if they are not paid pension, they are the old age people, they may be fallen into poverty trap. Or unemployed people, they are not working, they are not provided jobs, although they are looking for a job. So if they are not provided any type of benefit, what happens? They may be involved into criminal activities. So due to poverty, the crime rate can also increase. So in order to make them out of this poverty trap, government is going to make them transfer payments in the society. So this benefit in the form of cash money that will bring in equity rather than efficiency. So government other objective, that is equitable distribution of income, that can be achieved by this third tool of government intervention. Keep it in mind. We say there are two economic objectives of government intervention. One is to bring in economic efficiency and second is to bring equity. So here government is not going to achieve efficiency, but it is going to achieve equity. Equitable distribution of income should be there. Alright?
15 minutes. 15 minutes में अभी आपकी वीडियो
15?
15 मिनट.
Okay. Now see, we are going to start another tool of government intervention. What is that? The fourth tool of government intervention, that will be financial intervention. Now government is intervening in the economic activities through taxes and subsidies. The fourth tool, you can say, financial intervention. Financial intervention, we say now government is using the tool of tax or subsidy in order to intervene in the economic activities. We all know in case of tax we pay some part of our income to the government, and that tax can be used for transfer payments or for the production of other public goods and services or merit goods. So taxes, they are taken by the people in order to produce the public goods, merit goods, or make the transfer payments to the vulnerable groups. And subsidies, they are opposite to the taxes, because now government is paying to the consumers or producers in order to improve economic efficiency in the country. So these are the financial tools which are used by the government in order to improve economic efficiency and equity. Now come towards what are the different types of taxes. One is called direct tax, and second is called indirect tax. What do you mean by direct tax? These taxes are imposed on the possessions. These are imposed on the possessions or earnings. Here the tax burden cannot be shifted to others. When we ask the students what is direct tax, they say this is income tax. But this is only the example of direct tax. I am asking about what is the definition of direct tax. So direct tax is that in which tax burden cannot be shifted to others. Like if I am paying income tax, so its burden is on my income, I cannot shift its burden on you people. That's why we say it is a direct tax. So direct tax is that in which tax burden cannot be shifted to others. Whereas indirect taxes, they are imposed on the expenditures. Where are they imposed? They are imposed on the expenditures where burden of the tax can be shifted to others. What's the example of that tax? It is sales tax. So we say direct taxes, they are imposed on the possessions like income, like property, like wealth, like corporation tax. All these are the examples of, or inheritance tax, they are the examples of direct taxes. Whereas indirect taxes, they are imposed on the expenditures when we spend our income in the market. So on those expenditures, we have to pay taxes. Like you are buying something, shoes from a market, from a shop, or you are buying any fast food, you have to pay taxes on your expenses. Even you are not earning income, but indirect taxes you are paying whenever you are spending your pocket money in order to buy different types of goods of your wants which you want to consume. So direct taxes, they are imposed on possessions, whereas indirect taxes, they are imposed on the expenditures, and indirect taxes, their burden can be shifted to others. Like sales tax, sales are about the sellers. Sellers, they are making the sales, but they have shifted its burden on the buyers. That's why we say they are called indirect taxes, whereas direct taxes, where burden cannot be shifted. Now I come towards what is meant by canons of taxation. Canons of taxation. I mean, what are the qualities of good tax? Qualities of a good tax. If I say, what are the qualities of a good tax? A tax which is imposed, it should be equal, or we say there should be equity or fair. Equal, or sometimes we say equity should be there, a fair tax should be there. What do you mean by equal tax or equitable tax? That means when we impose a tax, that should be according to the earnings of the people. If we say there is a lump sum tax, like 5,000 rupees are going to be paid in the form of tax, this is a lump sum tax. Lump sum tax. Everyone is liable to pay 5,000 rupees as a tax. Now keep it in mind, a person who is earning 10,000 rupees per month, his 50% of income will be taken as a tax. half of income will be paid in the form of tax, whereas a person who is earning 100,000, he has to pay only 5%. So this is not an equal tax. It is equal in the amount, but according to the income they are earning, it is not having equality. It is not a fair tax. So we use a rule which is called pay as you earn. Pay as you earn. We are having a 5% of income tax. Now see, a person who is earning 10,000 rupees, he has to pay only 500 as a tax. Okay, and a person who is earning 100,000 income per month, he has to pay 5,000 rupees as a tax. So now the rate is same. Now it is having a fair tax because it is not going to have more burden on poor, because it's according to the income, it's only the 5%. A person who is earning less, he is paying less tax in absolute form. Although the rate is same, but a person who is earning high income, he has to pay more amount of the tax because percentage remains same. So it should be equal tax or equitable or fair tax should be there in the economy whenever we are using this tool. This quality of a tax should be, it should be fair or it should be equal now. Now the second canon of taxation, that is about certain. A tax which we are paying, that must be certain as well. If it is subject to fluctuation, in 1 month a person has paid 500 tax, in the next month he has to pay 2000 tax, in the third month he has to pay even higher than 2000. So this uncertainty will not make a good tax. In order to have a good tax, a tax must be certain as well. It will not be disturbing or it will not be having any distorting effects on the investments or on the expenditures of the people when taxes are certain. And if taxes are uncertain, we cannot have more and more economic investment in the country. Uncertainty in the taxation system will cause more harmful effects. Now, the third characteristic or the quality of a good tax should be convenient to pay. Convenient to pay. That means the method of tax payment should be very easy. If it is complex method to pay the tax to the government, so nobody will be bothering to make the payments to the tax. Whenever we receive the salary, so actually our employer will deduct tax and they are directly sending it to FBR account. We don't need to visit FBR in order to make the tax payments. And if after receiving salary, we have to stand in the queue in order to make the tax payments, it will become uneasy for every employee to pay the monthly taxes to the government. So the method of payment of taxes should be very easy. That will be helpful to the taxpayers in order to make the taxes to the government. And if it is complex, nobody will be interested to make the tax payments. And fourth canon of taxation is economical. Economical meaning what? The collection cost of the tax should be minimum. If we are going to collect 1 million rupees tax from this area, its collection cost should be minimized, like its cost should not be exceeding the amount of the tax collected. So we need to have less and less expenditures on the collection of the taxes, like the salaries which are paid to the tax department, like the expenditures on fueling of the automobiles or other expenditures on the tax department. They should be having minimum. Okay, so in that case we will have the economical tax. Otherwise our tax targets, if they are having more collection costs, they will not be economical. So taxes, any tax which is having a good quality, it must be fair, equitable, it must be certain, it must be convenient to pay, and its collection cost should be minimized, and the taxation system will also be efficient one. Then our tax revenues will be increasing for the government, and that revenue will be used for other purposes in order to run the affairs of the government or to provide public goods or merit goods or to redistribute the income. So in our next lesson we will be continuing with the nature of the tax, and then after 2 or 3 lessons we will be able to complete the taxation and subsidies, and this chapter will be ended. Okay, thanks for today. See you tomorrow inshallah in the next class.